The screen went dark. Season 3 of The Wheel of Time had just drawn to its stunning close. Fans around the globe were still catching their breath, minds buzzing with the implications of that powerful finale. The final moments had unfurled like a banner, promising so much more to come. A vast, intricate destiny was clearly beginning to unfold for Rand al'Thor and his companions. The world felt alive, teetering on the very precipice of monumental change, a change viewers were eager to witness. Then, an unexpected, unwelcome stillness descended upon the televised world of the Dragon Reborn. The vibrant tapestry woven with such care and expense suddenly, inexplicably, ceased its weaving. Just as hope surged highest, the devastating news arrived with brutal efficiency. The Wheel of Time, Amazon Prime Video's sprawling fantasy epic, was no more. It had been officially cancelled. After 3 seasons of grand adventure and deepening intrigue, the on-screen journey was abruptly over. Fans across the world felt a collective punch to the gut, a shared sense of disbelief. The wheel, that potent symbol of endless cycles and rebirth, had seemingly ground to a permanent halt. We must now embark on a different, more somber journey than the one we anticipated. The devastating news of the cancellation spread like wildfire through the dedicated fandom. A collective gasp, sharp and pained, echoed across countless online forums and social media platforms. Websites dedicated to the series lit up, not with the usual joyful speculation about what was next, but with raw disbelief. Anger quickly followed. Then came a profound sense of shared, inescapable sorrow. Hashtags like #SaveTheWheelOfTime and #TheWheelTurns no more began to trend almost immediately. The global community of fans so recently united in their enthusiastic celebration of the Season 3 finale now found itself inextricably bound by a common, unexpected, and deeply unwelcome grief. For countless viewers, this television series was far more than just another fleeting piece of weekly entertainment. It represented a cherished escape, a fully realized portal into a world rich with intricate magic, ever-present danger, and profound, relatable human struggle. The characters, Rand, Moraine, Lan, Nynaeve, Egwene, Perrin, and Mat, felt less like fictional constructs and more like steadfast companions on a long, often arduous but always compelling journey. To see their stories so abruptly and inexplicably terminated on screen felt deeply personal, a painful severing of a cherished connection. Fans of the monumental 14-book literary series knew, with a certainty that sharpened their disappointment, precisely what lay ahead in the unadapted portions of the saga. The television adaptation, for all its occasional deviations from the sacred source material, had nonetheless promised to bring these epic, unforgettable scenes to breathtaking visual life. This abrupt cancellation is, without doubt, a quiet tragedy. The Wheel of Time was never a small affair. It was conceived as a television titan. Amazon Prime Video poured immense resources into its creation. This was meant to be a fantasy epic for the ages. Robert Jordan's sprawling world demanded nothing less. The ambition was breathtaking. From the very first frame, the scale was undeniably vast. Viewers were promised a journey across a rich, detailed continent. The screen was to be a canvas for grand battles and intricate magical workings. Production crews spanned multiple continents to capture its essence. Filming locations were carefully chosen, from dramatic mountain ranges to ancient whispering forests. Intricate sets were built with painstaking detail. Each city, each village, each fortress felt lived in, authentic. The costumes alone were a monumental undertaking, reflecting the diverse cultures of Jordan's rich tapestry. This dedication to physical world building established a truly immersive experience for the audience. But such grandeur always carries a significant, ever-growing cost. Despite a third season that many critics and fans hailed as its strongest, the axe fell. The Wheel of Time was officially cut short. The primary reason cited was brutally simple: money. The series, for all its creative strides and epic scope, had become too expensive to sustain. It was a harsh reality check. Even in worlds of magic and destiny, the mundane concerns of budgets and balance sheets hold ultimate power. Amazon, like any major streaming platform, operates on a knife-edge balance. Creative merit is undoubtedly valued. Prestige projects can bring acclaim and attract subscribers. Yet these artistic considerations must always be weighed against cold, hard data. Viewership numbers, subscriber acquisition, and overall return on investment are the true arbiters of a show's fate. The Wheel of Time was a flagship series, a jewel in Prime Video's crown. Such status, however, comes with immense pressure to deliver not just quality, but also quantifiable success. The more a show costs, the higher the bar it must clear to justify its continued existence in a crowded marketplace. The dream had collided with the unyielding reality of financial pragmatism, and pragmatism had won the day. The journey of The Wheel of Time began with such dazzling promise. When Season 1 launched in late 2021, it roared onto Prime Video. It quickly became one of the platform's most watched original series premieres ever. Initial figures were strong. A collective sigh of relief and excitement went through the book-reading community. It seemed for a moment that this epic adaptation would indeed conquer the television landscape. Hope was incredibly high. The early numbers suggested a bright future, a long and prosperous run that might see all 14 books brought to life. This initial success set a high bar, perhaps an impossibly high one. However, this bright dawn soon began to fade into a more uncertain twilight. With each subsequent season, the impressive viewership numbers started to slip. The initial surge of curiosity and excitement did not translate into sustained, growing engagement for the long haul. Season 2, arriving after a significant near 2-year gap, struggled to recapture the initial momentum. While still performing decently, a downward trend was becoming apparent. The pattern of viewership had, unfortunately, woven a premature ending. One critical wound was time itself, or rather, the chasms of time between seasons. The Wheel of Time launched its first campaign in late 2021. Hopes were incredibly high, excitement was palpable across the fan world. But then, a long, drawn-out silence descended. Season 2 did not arrive until nearly 2 full years later, in the latter part of 2023. This was a significant pause. Then, another agonizing wait stretched before the viewers. Season 3 only graced screens in early 2025. These lengthy intermissions proved to be a formidable enemy, a slow drain on the lifeblood of the series. The story's pulse became faint. This staggered release schedule did little to nurture the fragile flame of fan enthusiasm. Initial excitement naturally began to cool during these extended periods of nothingness. Anticipation, once a roaring fire, dwindled to embers. Casual viewers, those not deeply invested in Robert Jordan's literary world, found it increasingly difficult to remain tethered to the narrative. Their attention drifted. Momentum, so crucial for a series of this epic scale and ambition, was squandered with each passing empty month. The show struggled to maintain its grip on the collective consciousness of the audience, a grip that should have tightened with each passing season. Instead, it felt like the series was constantly trying to reintroduce itself. The intricate narrative, a hallmark of Jordan's work, suffered greatly. The Wheel of Time weaves a complex tapestry of characters, prophecies, and political intrigue. Such density demands consistent engagement to follow. These long breaks made it challenging for audiences to keep track of myriad plot threads. Who was allied with whom? What were the stakes now? The details grew hazy. This contrasted sharply with series that build sustained engagement through more regular, often weekly releases. Those shows cultivate a rhythm, a continuous conversation. The Wheel of Time's rhythm was broken, its song interrupted too often, for too long. Each gap, therefore, was not an isolated incident. The damage was cumulative. The pause before Season 2 created a hurdle. The further delay before Season 3 compounded this weakness significantly. By the time the third season arrived, the connection for many viewers felt tenuous, frayed. The show's ability to command unwavering attention had been demonstrably weakened by these inconsistent appearances. This unsteady foundation made it more vulnerable. Other contributing factors, other pressures, found fertile ground in this environment of diminished audience loyalty and fractured narrative continuity. The long waits were a slow poison. Adapting a beloved, sprawling book series is a perilous quest. It is a tightrope walk over a canyon of expectation. On one side lies slavish faithfulness, risking a stale or uncinematic retelling. On the other, bold reinterpretation, which can invigorate but also alienate. The Wheel of Time's creators chose a path that included significant changes. They were clearly aiming to streamline the colossal narrative for television. They also sought to surprise even those who knew the texts intimately. This was a brave choice. However, the passionate, dedicated fan base of Robert Jordan's novels watched with keen, often critical eyes. Their love for the source material was a powerful double-edged sword for the show. While some creative choices were met with understanding or even praise, others sparked significant controversy. Certain character deaths, occurring at unexpected junctures or not at all in the books, sent shockwaves of dismay. Major plot deviations altering established arcs or the very fabric of certain storylines felt like betrayals to some. These were not minor tweaks, they were fundamental shifts. For a portion of the diehard fans, these changes were irreconcilable. They fractured the sacred covenant between the original text and its visual adaptation. The show, in their eyes, was veering off the true path, losing the essence of the tale they held so dear. This discontent did not remain confined to private grumbling. It spilled loudly into the public square of the internet. Online forums, social media groups, and fan websites became battlegrounds. Fiery debates erupted between those defending the show's choices and those decrying them. Negative reviews, often passionately articulated by longtime readers, began to accumulate. This vocal backlash from a segment of the core audience created a persistent negative buzz. These were the very people who should have been the show's most ardent champions. Instead, a significant number felt alienated, their loyalty tested, sometimes beyond its breaking point. This internal division was not a healthy sign. The impact of this book fan backlash likely extended beyond the existing fanbase. Potential new viewers, curious about the series, might have encountered this negativity. Such widespread criticism could easily deter those unfamiliar with the books. Why invest time in a show that even its supposed core admirers were heavily criticizing? A united, enthusiastic fandom can be a powerful marketing force. A divided one, however, sends mixed, often confusing signals. The show needed every advantage it could get. The disaffection of a vocal part of its foundational audience was a significant self-inflicted wound that hampered its broader appeal and ultimately contributed to its decline. The Wheel of Time did not creep silently onto our screens for its debut. Season 1 was heralded by a significant marketing onslaught. Amazon Prime Video invested heavily in its launch. Trailers were epic. Billboards were prominent. Media interviews were plentiful. This initial promotional push successfully generated considerable excitement and set high expectations. It felt like the arrival of a major television event. The world was primed for a new fantasy epic. This strong start, however, made the subsequent pullback in marketing all the more conspicuous and damaging. The trumpets that announced its arrival soon fell quiet. For seasons 2 and 3, the promotional drumbeat noticeably softened. The grand campaigns of the first season were not replicated. Marketing efforts felt scaled back, less ambitious, almost perfunctory at times, while other major fantasy productions like Prime Video's own The Rings of Power continued to receive lavish promotional attention. The Wheel of Time seemed to recede into the shadows. It was a puzzling shift in strategy for what was ostensibly a flagship show. This diminished visibility made it harder for the series to attract new viewers or even to remind existing ones that a new season was imminent. It risked being forgotten in an increasingly crowded landscape. This lack of sustained marketing contributed to another critical failing, the absence of a vibrant weekly hype culture. Unlike monoliths such as Game of Thrones or breakout hits like The Last of Us, The Wheel of Time rarely became a dominant topic of weekly online conversation. There were few truly viral moments that captured the broader public imagination. Fan theories, while present within dedicated communities, seldom broke out into the mainstream consciousness. The show didn't consistently generate that must-watch, must-discuss urgency. It struggled to become essential viewing, an appointment television event that people feared missing out on. It simmered, but it seldom boiled over with widespread excitement. This quiet existence was particularly perilous in an era of so-called fantasy fatigue. Audiences are now awash in a sea of fantastical worlds, sci-fi adventures, and dystopian dramas. Standing out requires more than just quality. It demands relentless presence and compelling buzz. Without a strong, continuous marketing push and the organic excitement of weekly hype, The Wheel of Time risked becoming just another title in the vast streaming library. It needed to feel vital, unmissable. Instead, for many it became simply one option among many, easily overlooked, if not actively sought out. The fading spotlight made its fight for survival all the more difficult. Rand al'Thor, the Dragon Reborn, had embraced his destiny as Kara Karn, leader of the Ale. Yet this monumental step was merely the beginning of his true ordeal. The final images of Season 3 showed him clutching the One Power, teetering on the very brink of madness, the insidious whispers of Luz Theron Telamon, just starting to claw at his sanity. This internal battle, the slow, agonizing descent into a mind fractured by an ancient powerful consciousness, and the taint on Sidon, was meant to be a core agony of his journey. We witnessed him approach the precipice, but the harrowing fall, the desperate struggle to retain his identity while wielding world-breaking power, is a profound narrative tragedy now left tragically unbuilt and unexplored on screen. The true cost of being the savior was only just beginning to be tallied. The Forsaken, the Dark One's most dreaded and powerful lieutenants, were mere shadows for much of the early seasons, their true menace yet to be fully unleashed. While Ishamael and Lanfear played their intricate, devastating games, other formidable figures like Samael, Graendal, Balal and Ravin were poised to step from the pages of myth into horrifying reality. Each possessed a unique brand of cruelty, ambition, and terrifying power. Their carefully woven webs of deceit, their corruption of nations from within, and their deeply personal vendettas against the Dragon Reborn were set to form the terrifying backbone of future conflicts. Their chilling, expanded absence from the narrative leaves a gaping void in the scope of antagonism Rand was fated to confront and ultimately overcome. His newfound leadership of the Aiel people, a culture fiercely loyal yet profoundly alien to the Wetlanders, represented a monumental journey in itself. He had achieved the impossible by uniting their disparate clans, a feat unseen for countless generations, but the true test lay in guiding them beyond the Dragon Wall, through foreign lands and into wars that were not their own. Their unwavering devotion, their unparalleled skill as warriors, and their unique societal structures were absolutely crucial components of his armies and the unfolding prophecy. The television adaptation managed to hint at the weight of this bond, but the full, complex tapestry of their integration into his forces and the immense sacrifices they were destined to make for him remain sorrowfully untold chapters. Beyond the encroaching madness and the immense responsibility to the Aiel, Rand's path was one of escalating global conflict and a series of impossible, heartbreaking choices. He was the Dragon Reborn, a figure of prophecy fated to break nations, to sunder alliances, to remake the very fabric of the world, all while desperately fighting the Shadow's insidious encroachment from within and without. The ancient prophecies hinted at immense suffering, both that which he would inflict and that which he would be forced to endure. The crushing loneliness of his unique position, the constant threat of betrayal from those closest to him, and the unbearable burden of being the world's solitary hope against utter oblivion, these deeper, more mature and psychologically harrowing themes were only just starting to surface, now lost to an echoing silence. Moiraine Damodred, the indomitable Aes Sedai guide, had been mortally wounded by Lanfear only to be saved through the immense and volatile power of the Choedan Kal Sa'angreal. This experience had visibly changed her, imbuing her with a new, perhaps terrifying insight. She had glimpsed something vital, a crucial piece of the future pattern, knowledge that would have undoubtedly reshaped her mission and her counsel to Rand. What terrible truths, what desperate, fragile hopes did she witness in that fiery crucible of power? This unique foreknowledge, meant to be a beacon guiding Rand and the forces of light through the treacherous paths ahead, now remains a tantalizing, unanswered enigma, her ultimate, hard-won wisdom forever unshared with the audience who journeyed with her. The unexpected and shocking on-screen death of Siwan Sanche, the formidable Amirlan Seat, was one of the show's boldest deviations from Robert Jordan's novels. This pivotal event, occurring far earlier and more violently than in the source material, threw the White Tower into immediate and unprecedented chaos. It promised a brutal, intricate power struggle, a deep schism that threatened to rip the ancient institution of the Aes Sedai apart from within. Who would dare to seize the fallen Amerlin stole? How would the fractured tower navigate its own internal war while the shadow of the last battle loomed ever larger? The show courageously set these volatile pieces upon the board, only for the game to be cruelly abandoned mid-play, leaving the White Tower in disarray and its future unwritten. Nynaeve Almeida, the fiercely determined wisdom from Emond's Field, had finally, triumphantly, shattered the mental block that had so long constrained her immense channeling abilities. She stood on the very verge of becoming one of the most powerful Aes Sedai of her age, her raw, untamed strength now undeniable. However, her profound journey of learning control, cultivating compassion, and making revolutionary discoveries in the art of healing was only just beginning. We will now tragically miss her challenging the rigid, outdated doctrines of the White Tower, nor witness her incredible, world-changing feats of healing, such as restoring men who could channel from the brink of madness, or even reversing the dreaded process of stilling. Her evolution into a figure of immense global influence is a vibrant thread now prematurely cut from the pattern. Perhaps one of the most dramatically curtailed and deeply lamented character arcs is that of Egwene Alvir. Her path, as written in the books, was one of harrowing trials and extraordinary resilience, leading to her eventual inspiring rise as the Amerlin seat of the rebel Aes Sedai faction. Her capture by the Shanshan, her brutal enslavement as a domain, and her subsequent defiance and escape were formative experiences that forged her into a formidable and inspiring leader. Without this crucial, transformative arc, her character's full potential remains unrealized on screen. The entire saga of the White Tower's painful division, its desperate struggle for reunification, and Egwene's pivotal role in that healing process, is now tragically erased from the visual narrative, leaving a gaping hole in the heart of the story. Mat Cauthon, the incorrigible rogue, the reluctant gambler, and the unexpectedly brilliant hero, was last seen fresh from his harrowing escape from the Tower of Genjai, armed with the invaluable Foxhead medallion that protected him from the One Power. His incredible destiny as a legendary military commander, leading the formidable band of the Red Hand to countless victories, was poised to unfold dramatically across future seasons. His uncanny luck, a force of nature in itself, his sharp strategic brilliance often cleverly masked by a veneer of irreverence, and his crucial tide-turning role in many of the saga's most significant battles, are now elements confined to the well-loved pages of the books. The television screen will unfortunately not bear witness to his reluctant rise to become one of the great captains of the age. Perrin Ibarra, the gentle, thoughtful blacksmith forever wrestling with his profound wolf brother nature, had only just begun to truly accept and integrate his dual identity. His complex journey involved not only mastering his connection to the wolves and the dangerous allure of the wolf dream, but also reluctantly embracing leadership for his displaced people from the Two Rivers. The forging of his iconic hammer, Ma'aleanir, a symbol of his strength and resolve, and the intricate, often challenging development of his relationship with Fail Basher, were key components of his growth. His internal struggles, his quiet, steadfast strength, and his unique contributions to the fight against the encroaching shadow are now compelling narratives left frustratingly incomplete, his powerful howl largely uncelebrated on screen. The broader, pervasive threat of the shadow, the ultimate antagonist of the entire saga, remains significantly underdeveloped as a result of the premature cancellation. Beyond the actions of a few key Forsaken like Ishamael and Lanfear, the true depth and insidious reach of the Dark One's influence, along with the intricate, horrifying plots of his many other chosen servants, are now lost to the viewers. The subtle machinations of figures like Masana, corrupting the White Tower from within, or the ambitious empire building of Demandred in distant lands, added critical layers of complexity, dread, and global peril to the narrative. The pervasive, chilling sense of a world slowly, inexorably succumbing to darkness, fought on multiple hidden and overt fronts, will not achieve its truly terrifying on-screen realization. Consequently, so many other vibrant cultures, fascinating lands, and compelling secondary characters, all vital to the immense richness and sprawling tapestry of Robert Jordan's meticulously crafted world, will now remain unseen or woefully underdeveloped. The enigmatic sea folk, with their unique prophecies and crucial role in the last battle, the intricate, often brutal politics of the beleaguered borderland nations, the terrifying might and alien culture of the ever-expanding Xiantian Empire, and its future invasions of the mainland. Each of these threads, and countless more, was an integral part of the great pattern. Their absence diminishes the true scale of the intended epic, leaving the on-screen world feeling significantly smaller, its ultimate destiny less complete, and its final, hard-won victory, had it ever been shown, less earned by the collective, desperate effort of all its diverse peoples. Season 4 would have plunged us headfirst into the searing heat of. The narrative was poised for a dramatic, breathtaking escalation. Rand al'Thor, newly declared as the Karakarn, the chief of chiefs among the Aiel, faced his first monumental test of this new, terrifying mantle. He had to unite a proud, fiercely independent warrior people, a people deeply fractured by his astonishing arrival and the earth-shattering revelations at Ruidin. This consolidation of power, deep within the harsh, unforgiving expanse of the Aiel Waste, was not merely a calculated political maneuver. It was an essential crucible, tempering and forging him for the even greater, more devastating conflicts that lay in his prophesied path. The desolate, sun-baked canyons and wind-scoured plateaus would soon echo with his new, terrible and undeniable authority, a burden he was only just beginning to truly comprehend. The immense weight of ancient prophecy, the crushing weight of an entire people's destiny, pressed down relentlessly upon his young shoulders. We would have then witnessed the awe-inspiring, terrifying spectacle of Rand leading this newly, if tenuously, united Aiel force. They would pour forth from their ancestral desert lands a veritable river of highly skilled, deadly warriors, an unstoppable, disciplined tide moving across the land. Their immediate pressing destination, the beleaguered, war-torn nation of Karhien. There, the Shaido Aiel, those embittered clans who vehemently rejected Rand's claim and the prophecies he fulfilled, were laying waste to the countryside, led by the ruthless, ambitious, and brutally effective Couladin. This campaign, viewers would have seen, would have been nothing short of brutal, showcasing the unique and terrifying efficiency of Aiel warfare on a grand, sweeping cinematic scale. We would see their incredible discipline, their lightning speed, their deadly, unparalleled skill with spear and buckler. It was a critical military engagement, a foundational moment in Rand's rise, a sight promised by the books, now tragically denied to the waiting screen. The very earth itself would seem to tremble beneath their marching feet. Simultaneously, and perhaps more importantly, Rand's internal struggle, his most personal and agonizing war, would have reached new excruciating depths of torment. The insidious chilling whispers of Luz Theron Telamon, the impossibly ancient, undeniably mad dragon from a forgotten, broken age, would grow louder, more insistent, more pervasive within the confines of his mind. The dark, corrupting taint on Saidin, the male half of the One Power, would continue its relentless, insidious corruption, a creeping, unseen darkness poisoning his very soul, twisting his thoughts and emotions. We would see the innocent, determined boy from the Two Rivers slowly, painfully, and irrevocably transform before our very eyes. His heart, once open and filled with youthful caring, would begin to encase itself in unyielding stone, a necessary, albeit tragic, defense against the unending horrors he faced and the potential horrors he himself might unleash upon the world. His burgeoning, intensely complex relationship with Aviendha, the fierce Aiel Maiden of the Spear, would offer only fleeting, fragile moments of warmth, a precarious human connection in a world rapidly spiraling into utter chaos and despair. Beyond the immediate crucible of the Aiel Waste, the myriad forces of the ever-present Shadow were far from idle. They were actively stirring, plotting. New, formidable threats would emerge from the darkness, while old, bitter enemies would find themselves emboldened by the Dragon Reborn's rapidly rising power and influence. The Forsaken, the Dark One's most powerful and dreaded immortal servants, would step more fully from the obscuring shadows of myth and legend into horrifying reality. We would have seen Ravin, the master manipulator, weaving his intricate webs of subtle compulsion and outright domination from the royal palace in Kemlin, effectively ruling the nation of Andor through a beautiful enthralled puppet queen. Samael, the famed, arrogant general from the Age of Legends, would be seen consolidating his own formidable power base in the southern city-state of Ilion, posing a direct and dangerous challenge to Rand's burgeoning influence in the region. Their intricate, deadly plots, their deeply personal vendettas against Luz Theron reborn in Rand, would begin to tighten like a suffocating, inescapable net. The world itself felt increasingly hostile, the hunt for the dragon truly, terrifyingly, and irrevocably on. Lanfear, the daughter of the night, her ethereal beauty matched only by her terrifying, almost limitless power and her burning, all-consuming obsession, would have remained a pivotal, deeply personal, and unpredictable antagonist for Rand. Season 4 would have undoubtedly delved even deeper into the raging, destructive tempest of her profound jealousy and deeply wounded pride. Her complex, fiercely possessive love for Luz Theron Telemann, a love from an age long past, had twisted over millennia into a dangerous, unstable fixation on Rand, the man who now bore Luz Theron's soul. Any perceived slight, any rival for Rand's attention, any deviation from her desires would be enough to unleash her devastating, catastrophic fury. She was far more than just another Forsaken. She was a spurned lover armed with the power to unmake nations, a cosmic force of untamed passion and terrifying destruction. Her insidious influence, a constant and unpredictable threat, would weave its dark threads throughout the season's intricate narrative. A beautiful, deadly, and captivating dance of intense attraction and lethal peril. Then, a new, ominous, and deeply ambiguous power was destined to rise from the ashes of forgotten lore, a power that would change the very fabric of the world, the Black Tower. Season 4 would have introduced the enigmatic, undeniably charismatic and potentially dangerous Mazrim Taim. He was a man who could channel, a man who had for a time proclaimed himself the Dragon Reborn, and who now surprisingly bent his knee in service to Rand. His sudden arrival would have been a profound shock, a beacon of both desperate hope and grave, unspoken fear. Rand's momentous decision to gather and train male channelers, creating the formidable Ashaman, was a desperate, controversial, and world-altering gamble. These men, wielding the tainted, madness-inducing male half of the One Power, were feared, hated, and relentlessly hunted by the White Tower, yet they were undeniably essential if humanity was to have any hope of surviving the last battle. Taim's true allegiance, his ultimate hidden ambitions, would remain a deeply unsettling, ever-present question mark, a dark shadow hanging over this new, formidable, and ultimately terrifying force. Moraine Damodred's solitary journey, meanwhile, was leading her inexorably, step by fateful step, towards a moment of profound, heart-wrenching sacrifice, a destiny she had glimpsed with chilling clarity in the shimmering prophetic rings of Ruidin. Her precious, burdensome knowledge of future events, gleaned from that terrifying, soul-altering experience, imbued her every word, her every action, with a quiet, almost sorrowful urgency, a solemn, unwavering resolve. The bustling docks of the city of Caerhien, a specific time and a specific place, loomed large and unavoidable in her foreknowledge. An inevitable, explosive confrontation with Lanfear, her bitter, ancient rival for Luz Theron's affection in ages long past and now for Rand's crucial attention, was drawing terrifyingly near. This destined confrontation was not merely a dramatic clash of two immensely powerful channelers, it was a pivotal, crucial turning point in the pattern, a terrible sacrifice that Moraine knew, with absolute certainty, she must make to ensure Rand's path remained open, however perilous that path might be. Her dramatic, shocking disappearance, therefore, would have been a devastating, defining, and game-changing moment of Season 4. In Robert Jordan's books, she heroically tackles Lanfear, and both formidable women fall through the twisted redstone door ter'angreal, seemingly into utter oblivion, lost beyond hope or rescue. This courageous act depicted on screen would have left Rand feeling truly, utterly, and terrifyingly alone, abruptly stripped of his most trusted, steadfast guide, and his most potent, knowledgeable protector. The world, already teetering precariously on the very brink of chaos and despair, would lose one of its most dedicated and steadfast defenders against the encroaching insidious shadow. Moraine's perceived death, her noble sacrifice, would send profound shockwaves rippling through the entire narrative, altering alliances, shattering hopes, and forcing other, less prepared characters to reluctantly step into the immense void she left behind. It was an act of immense, selfless courage, of profound, unspoken love, and of unwavering, resolute duty to the intricate, unyielding pattern of ages, a sacrifice that would echo powerfully through all subsequent events, had they ever been filmed. The often perilous journeys of Nynaeve Almeida and Elaine Trakand would have taken them far from Rand's immediate, chaotic orbit, yet their vital quest was of paramount, world-altering importance. We would have seen them forging uneasy alliances with the rebel Aes Sedai faction gathered in the hidden refuge of Saladar, a group of determined women standing in open defiance of Elaida Arroyhan's increasingly tyrannical and misguided rule in the White Tower. Their primary, almost impossible mission to locate the legendary Bowl of the Winds, a mythical ter'angreal of immense power, reputedly capable of correcting the Dark One's unnatural, life-choking manipulation of the world's weather patterns. This dangerous, desperate search would lead them across war-torn, hostile lands, forcing them to face hidden perils, treacherous intrigues, and entirely unexpected allies. Nynaeve, having finally triumphantly shattered her deep-seated emotional block to channeling, would begin to perform incredible, unprecedented feats of healing, boldly challenging ancient restrictive doctrines and revolutionizing the very art itself. Elaine, meanwhile, would continue to grow into her innate strength, her natural political acumen sharply honed by relentless adversity and the heavy weight of burgeoning responsibility. Matt Cawthon, the incorrigible rogue, the inveterate gambler, the profoundly reluctant hero, would find himself inexorably thrust into a demanding role he never sought nor ever truly desired, that of a respected and brilliant military commander. His invaluable unique foxhead medallion, a potent artifact protecting him from the direct touch of the One Power, would be his constant, reassuring companion. Around him, the soon-to-be legendary band of the Red Hand would begin to form, a disparate, motley collection of hardened soldiers and hopeful refugees, all drawn to his uncanny, inexplicable luck, his roguish, infectious charisma, and his surprisingly brilliant, unconventional tactical mind. We would have witnessed crucial battles won not through orthodox textbook strategy but through Matt's sheer, gut-level instinct, his audacious, unpredictable gambles, and his remarkable ability to inspire loyalty in the most unlikely of men. His military destiny, long prophesied in cryptic verse, would finally dramatically start to unfold, cementing his place as one of the truly great captains of the age. A legend was being painfully forged in the unforgiving crucible of war, much to his own perpetual vocal chagrin. Far away, in the desolate, sun-scorched expanse of the Ael Waste, Egwene Alvir's profound and challenging transformation would continue unabated under the strict, often harsh tutelage of the Ael Wise Ones. Her rigorous, demanding training was not just in the complex art of wielding the One Power, but also in the challenging, often disorienting, and potentially dangerous skill of navigating Tel'aran'rhiod, the mysterious world of dreams. Here in that shifting, ethereal landscape where thought becomes reality, she would learn to master her formidable will, to confront her deepest, most paralyzing fears, and to perceive hidden truths and subtle currents of the pattern that were entirely obscured from the waking world. Her innate strength, her unwavering resilience, and her remarkable capacity for leadership were being deeply, irrevocably forged in this harsh, unforgiving yet strangely beautiful environment. The somewhat naive, headstrong village girl from Eamon's Field was rapidly, almost unrecognizably disappearing, replaced by a young woman of formidable power, quiet wisdom, and unyielding determination, unknowingly preparing herself for a future that would demand everything she had, a future where she would lead nations and reshape destinies. Perrin Aebara's deeply personal internal and increasingly dangerous external struggles would continue to define his compelling character arc. The profound, often painful conflict between the gentle, thoughtful man he was raised to be and the powerful, instinctual wolf brother he had undeniably become remained a constant source of both inner torment and unique, invaluable strength. He would be compelled, by circumstance and by his own compassionate nature, to lead his people, the displaced refugees from the Two Rivers, desperately seeking safety and a new permanent home in a world increasingly ravaged by war, famine, and widespread chaos. His fierce, intelligent, and often exasperating beloved hawk, Fael Basher, would be steadfastly by his side, their passionate, complex relationship deepening and evolving through shared trials, bitter arguments, and unwavering mutual devotion. The symbolic forging of his iconic power-wrought hammer, Ma'alanir, a weapon imbued with the One Power and his own indomitable spirit, would signify his reluctant but firm acceptance of his unique, often lonely path. Perrin's journey was one of quiet, steadfast, reluctant duty, the heavy burdens of leadership and profound love shaping his quiet, unwavering strength into a vital, irreplaceable anchor for all those who depended utterly upon him. The narrative of Season 4, drawing heavily from the pivotal events of Robert Jordan's, would have inexorably, relentlessly spiraled towards a terrifying, world-shattering climax. The suffocating tension surrounding Rand al'Thor would build to an almost unbearable, palpable pitch. Intricate plots and insidious counterplots hatched by various competing factions of Aes Sedai, both within the besieged White Tower and amongst the determined Saladar rebels, would thicken the very air with suspicion, paranoia, and the constant threat of betrayal. Emissaries from the White Tower, ostensibly dispatched to seek a peaceful accord with the Dragon Reborn, would arrive in Camelin bearing hidden, far more sinister agendas, their smiles masking deadly intent. Whispers of his capture, of him being shielded from the One Power, even of him being irreversibly gentled like a common madman, would haunt his waking moments and poison his dreams. Rand, increasingly isolated by the crushing weight of his immense power, and the madness relentlessly clawing at the edges of his sanity, would find the world closing in around him, a carefully constructed deadly trap slowly, inexorably and silently springing shut. Then the unthinkable, the moment that book readers worldwide awaited with a potent mixture of dread and grim anticipation, would happen. Rand al'Thor, the Dragon Reborn, the world's prophesied savior, would be captured. Betrayed by a faction of Aes Sedai, fiercely loyal to the ambitious and ruthless Amerlin seat, Elaida Aroyhan, he would be shielded, bound, and subjected to horrific, dehumanizing torment. He would be kept in a small, cramped wooden box, treated like a dangerous rabid animal rather than the hope of humanity, his spirit and his sanity pushed to their absolute breaking limit. This shocking, brutal event, depicted on screen with the gravity it deserved, would have sent seismic waves of disbelief and despair rippling through the global audience. The already fractured forces of light, scattered and disorganized, would be thrown into utter chaos and profound desperation. Hope, for a terrifying, agonizing time, would dwindle to a fragile, flickering, almost extinguished ember against an overwhelming, triumphant darkness. The Battle of Dumai's Wells. The very name itself, for those familiar with the books, evokes visceral images of unparalleled brutality, shocking betrayals, and a seismic, irreversible shift in the global balance of power. This cataclysmic confrontation would have been the stunning, horrifying, and unforgettable centerpiece of the Season 4 finale. A desperate, bloody, and chaotic rescue mission would unfold with breathtaking speed and ferocity. Perrin Ibarra, his eyes blazing with golden wolfish fury, would lead a courageous force of Two Rivers men and his wild, untamed wolf brethren into the fray. But the true earth-shattering shock of the battle would come from the Ashaman. Mazrim Taim, his expression unreadable, would lead Rand's newly trained male channelers, unleashing their terrible, tainted power with devastating, indiscriminate effect. The iconic, chilling line, "Kneel or you will be knelt," delivered with cold authority as the Ashaman decimated their enemies, would have shaken viewers to their very core. The raw, visceral and horrifying cost of war, the brutal breaking of old traditions and ancient restraints would be laid bare for all to witness. Victory, if such a term could even apply to such a pyrrhic and horrifying event, would be achieved. Rand would be freed from his tormentors, but the price paid would be immense, the consequences far-reaching and deeply unsettling. Rand al'Thor, scarred profoundly both physically and emotionally by his horrific ordeal in the box, would be forever changed, hardened in ways that would terrify even his closest, most steadfast allies. The awesome, terrifying and largely uncontrollable power of the Ashaman, loyal seemingly only to Rand himself, would be undeniably, chillingly demonstrated to the entire world, a new and frightening force unleashed upon the global stage. The authority and prestige of the Aes Sedai, particularly those factions who had dared to cage the Dragon Reborn, would be irrevocably shattered, their influence potentially broken forever. Season 4 would have ended on this brutal, transformative, and deeply unsettling note, the world irrevocably altered, plunging headlong into an even darker, more intense and uncertain future. A future now, tragically, left only to the bittersweet, frustrated imagination of the viewers who longed to see it. The lingering question, a second chance, a faint whisper of hope persists. It always does. Could another network, another powerful streaming giant, dare to pick up the fallen banner of the Wheel of Time? Fans, understandably heartbroken, cling desperately to this flickering possibility. It is a familiar, bittersweet refrain heard often in the sorrowful aftermath of beloved show cancellations. The passionate #Save the Wheel of Time campaign, exploding across social media, is far more than just a trending hashtag. It represents a heartfelt, collective plea from a wounded community. It is an expression of a deeply held belief. A belief that this particular story, so vast in its scope, so rich in its characters, so important to so many, is simply too significant to be allowed to just fade ignominiously from the television screen. This profound yearning for continuation, for resurrection, speaks volumes about the deep, emotional connection that was forged. However imperfectly or incompletely the show managed it, The potent desire for the wheel to turn once more, somewhere, somehow, remains a powerful, undeniable force. Yet, harsh realism inevitably casts its long, cold, and sobering shadow over these fragile, nascent hopes. The sheer financial investment required to produce the Wheel of Time is undeniably, staggeringly immense. Amazon's difficult decision has starkly, painfully underscored this unpalatable economic truth. Any potential suitor, any brave new platform considering this undertaking, would inevitably face the very same daunting production costs. They would confront the same critical need to attract and sustain a massive global audience, an audience large enough to robustly justify such a colossal ongoing expense. Furthermore, the series now carries the unfortunate, lingering stigma of a high-profile, premature cancellation. It might be perceived by some cautious executives as damaged goods, a risky, potentially tainted proposition. Navigating the undoubtedly complex existing rights issues, carefully untangling the intricate production framework already in place, would present yet another formidable, challenging set of logistical and daunting legal hurdles. The path to any potential resurrection is undeniably steep, treacherous, and fraught with considerable peril. It is not merely a question of wanting it to happen, it is a stark confrontation with cold, hard, unyielding numbers. But who then are these hypothetical potential saviors? Who are these dreamweavers, these titans of the modern streaming age, who might possess both the vision and the resources? Could Netflix, with its famously deep pockets and its truly vast global subscriber base, perceive a unique opportunity to capture a dedicated, already established fantasy audience eager for more? Perhaps Max, actively seeking to bolster its own impressive epic fantasy credentials beyond the sprawling, established saga of Westeros, might seriously consider such a bold, attention-grabbing acquisition. Or could it even be Apple TV+, a platform increasingly known for its unwavering commitment to exceptionally high production values and critically acclaimed prestige projects, that might be tempted by the undeniable allure of successfully completing such a grand, unfinished narrative? Each of these powerful platforms operates with its own distinct strategic imperatives, its own carefully calculated tolerance for financial risk, its own unique vision for what truly constitutes a flagship, must-watch series. The question therefore continues to linger, unanswered. Would any of them actually dare to take the plunge? If such an improbable, almost miraculous event were indeed to occur, it certainly would not be a simple, straightforward case of merely picking up precisely where Amazon abruptly left off. A mere continuation, a seamless transition, is highly unlikely to suffice, nor would it be the wisest course of action. The series, to have any realistic chance of long-term survival and success on a new home, would undoubtedly require a significant fundamental metamorphosis. It would need a carefully considered rebirth of sorts. A soft reboot might well represent the most viable, most strategically sound path forward. This would be a way to respectfully acknowledge what came before, what was achieved, while simultaneously forging a new, clearer, and more compelling direction for the future. This would entail far more than just a superficial change of ownership. It would demand a foundational rethinking of the show's entire approach, its core appeal, and its overarching strategy for engaging and sustaining a loyal, enthusiastic audience for the long, arduous journey still ahead. It presents a rare chance to learn from the past, to respin the intricate threads of the pattern with greater wisdom, clarity, and purpose. This absolutely necessary transformation, this carefully orchestrated soft reboot, would need to commence with an unwavering, absolute clarity of purpose from the very outset. The narrative stakes, both for the individual characters whose fates we follow and for the very survival of their imperiled world, must be rendered crystal clear, immediately accessible and deeply resonant to both new and returning viewers alike. The overarching narrative, while still retaining its inherently epic scope and ambition, might benefit from a more consistently streamlined and compelling focus. This would involve judiciously cutting away any narrative cul-de-sacs or tangential subplots that previously served to slow the essential momentum or diffuse the central dramatic tension. The core existential threat of the encroaching shadow, the profound desperation inherent in the dragon's monumental struggle, the immense overarching importance of the prophesied last battle, these absolutely critical elements must be brought decisively to the forefront, presented as sharp, immediate, and undeniably compelling. A renewed, palpable sense of urgency, a deeply felt feeling that every single moment, every choice, every sacrifice truly counts, would be utterly essential for its future survival. A crucial, non-negotiable element of this potential revival would be a deliberate, laser-like focus on the central, most beloved and most emotionally resonant characters. The core fellowship, Rand al'Thor, Egwene al'Vere, Perrin Ibarra, Matt Cawthon, and Nynaeve Almera, must undoubtedly be positioned as the undeniable beating heart of the entire story. Their individual journeys, their evolving relationships, their emotional growth, their painful sacrifices, and their hard-won triumphs must be the primary engines that drive the narrative relentlessly forward. Moraine de Modred and her loyal warder, Lan Mandragoran, as vital mentors, complex guides, and formidable warriors, would naturally remain absolutely indispensable to the unfolding drama. And the Forsaken, those terrifying, psychologically complex embodiments of ancient, undying evil, need to be consistently menacing, deeply characterized, and intelligently deployed. As the original essay so astutely hinted, truly allowing characters like the irrepressible Matt Cawthon and the fiercely determined Nynaeve Almera to genuinely shine, to fully embody their book counterparts' undeniable charisma, wit, and profound strength, could unlock a tremendous, currently untapped reservoir of audience engagement and enduring affection. This character-centric approach is not merely desirable, it is absolutely key. Respecting the profound, often tumultuous emotional arcs of these meticulously crafted characters is utterly paramount to any successful reweaving of the pattern. Their triumphs should feel genuinely exhilarating, their victories hard-earned and deeply satisfying. Conversely, their losses, their sorrows, their moments of despair must be portrayed with a raw honesty that feels genuinely heartbreaking and deeply relatable. The adaptation must bravely delve into their complex inner lives, explore their deepest, most hidden fears, their most cherished, fragile hopes, and the agonizing, often impossible choices they are forced to confront. Alongside this intense character focus, the incredibly rich, wonderfully intricate lore of Robert Jordan's meticulously constructed world needs exceptionally careful, thoughtful handling. Simplifying its undeniable complexities for a broader television audience is an incredibly delicate, challenging art form. It absolutely must be done without sacrificing the soul, the unique texture, the profound depth that makes The Wheel of Time such an enduring and beloved literary masterpiece. Any perception of dumbing down the material would risk alienating the crucial core fanbase anew, repeating past mistakes. The ultimate aim should always be enhanced accessibility and narrative clarity, not unwelcome shallowness, judiciously cutting unnecessary narrative filler to maintain a focused, powerful, and impactful story. To effectively rebuild lost momentum and skillfully avoid the devastating pitfalls of the past, a revived Wheel of Time would desperately need a robust, innovative, and consistently executed audience engagement strategy. This could conceivably involve the creation of compelling companion media, perhaps beautifully animated shorts exploring crucial elements of backstory or ancient legends, or even elegantly illustrated digital books designed to recap previous seasons' events for new or returning viewers. Regular, insightful recap content, engaging behind-the-scenes material, and interactive fan experiences could also help to keep the audience deeply invested and actively participating, particularly between seasons, effectively bridging any unavoidable production gaps. Crucially, a renewed, vigorous, imaginative, and above all, sustained marketing effort would be entirely non-negotiable. The series must be consistently visible, actively generating vibrant discussion, widespread excitement, and eager anticipation. It must ensure it doesn't once again fade quietly into the crowded, competitive background noise of the ever-expanding streaming landscape. It needs quite simply to become a compelling, unmissable conversation once more. The cancellation notice fell like a heavy shroud. An immediate, palpable grief rippled through the devoted fandom. This was not just the end of a television program. For many, it felt like a personal bereavement. The Wheel of Time, despite any flaws or deviations, had successfully carved out a significant, cherished space within countless hearts. The trending hashtag, #SaveTheWheel-of-Time, became far more than a mere digital plea. It transformed into a powerful, enduring symbol of this deep, unwavering connection. It was a collective roar from a community that passionately refused to allow their beloved story to simply vanish from the screen, to fade into silence without a fight. This series, for its loyal viewers, represented a shared, meaningful experience, an unforgettable journey now abruptly, cruelly curtailed, leaving behind an aching void filled with unspoken words and tragically unseen battles. Yet, even in its premature stillness, the show leaves behind a discernible cultural footprint, however incomplete its grand tapestry may ultimately be. It courageously undertook the monumental task of introducing Robert Jordan's incredibly vast and intricate universe to a fresh, eager generation of viewers. This act alone sparked vibrant new discussions, passionate debates about adaptation, and a renewed appreciation for the unique challenges inherent in translating such a sprawling, beloved epic fantasy from page to screen. The series, in its successes and its perceived missteps, became an important case study. It highlighted the delicate, often perilous dance between maintaining faithfulness to cherished source material and exercising necessary creative license. Its cancellation, too, tells a wider, more sobering story about the current, fiercely competitive media landscape, the immense financial pressures of the streaming wars, and the precarious, uncertain fate of even the most ambitious, visually stunning and expensive projects. The emotional investment made by fans in these characters, in their arduous struggles and their fleeting triumphs, was undeniably profound and deeply personal. So many viewers saw clear, resonant reflections of their own lives, their own carefully hidden strengths, and their most deeply felt vulnerabilities mirrored in these fictional heroes and heroines. They connected with channelers bravely striving for control over immense, volatile power. They admired warders embodying unwavering loyalty and selfless sacrifice. They understood wolf brothers grappling with their wild, instinctual nature, and they cheered for determined rebels bravely fighting for freedom against overwhelming odds. These powerful archetypes struck a universal chord. This intense connection effectively transformed passive viewing into a far more active, deeply emotional participation, a truly shared experience of soaring joys and crushing heartbreaks. The world itself became a much-needed sanctuary, a place of boundless wonder and ever-present danger that felt intensely, vividly real to its most ardent, devoted followers. The specific tragedy of this cancellation, therefore, lies not just in a popular show ending before its time. It resides in the tragic erasure of so many beloved, eagerly anticipated story arcs. It is the profound sorrow of a grand, sweeping narrative being violently interrupted mid-sentence, its most powerful verses left unsung. The most iconic, earth-shattering battles, the deepest, most transformative character developments, the ultimate terrifying confrontation with the forces of the shadow. All of these were fervently promised, all vividly visualized in the collective imagination of fans who had devoured the books, now cruelly relegated to the bittersweet, frustrating realm of what if. This is not merely about missing out on a few more seasons of a television show, it is about profoundly mourning the televised death of cherished future moments, the deafening silence where truly epic, unforgettable scenes should have unfolded, the heavy sense of an unfulfilled promise, a magnificent tapestry left with its most crucial threads hanging, looms incredibly large, the full, intricate pattern forever unseen on the screen. The impassioned #Save the Wheel of Time movement, still echoing across the digital expanse, represents far more than just a desperate, hopeful plea for the show's miraculous revival. It stands as a powerful, undeniable testament to the story's profound and enduring power, a power that clearly transcends the confines of a single adaptation. While some dedicated fans still fervently dream of another network bravely stepping in, or perhaps a feature film to offer some semblance of closure, the sheer energetic persistence of this campaign signifies the community's collective refusal to allow this rich, expansive narrative to simply fade into obscurity. This passionate, heartfelt outcry is an unmistakable signal, a clear declaration that the deep, resonant bond forged between the audience and this meticulously crafted world cannot be easily severed by a programming decision, however final it may seem. It is a collective voice, insisting that such a vast, meaningful saga truly deserves a more fitting, more complete telling of its grand, intricate design. Even if the on-screen wheel does indeed remain stubbornly, frustratingly still, the story itself, the very essence of the Wheel of Time, is far from extinguished. It continues to thrive, vibrant and undiminished, within the 14 magnificent volumes of Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson's beloved literary epic. It flourishes with undiminished energy in the countless passionate discussions, The intricate, insightful fan theories, the stunningly creative fan art, and the wonderfully imaginative fan fiction that continue to be lovingly created and enthusiastically shared by a dedicated global community. This community itself, in a very real sense, becomes the vigilant keeper of the flame, the living, breathing repository of these cherished, unforgettable tales. The characters therefore continue their epic journeys unabated in the boundless minds of readers, their most crucial battles still fiercely fought, their most significant prophecies still dramatically fulfilled on the limitless, glorious stage of human imagination. The screen's unfortunate silence simply cannot extinguish these myriad powerful and enduring echoes. This very idea, this persistence of story beyond a single medium, resonates deeply with one of the most central, recurring tenets of the Wheel of Time saga itself. The Wheel of Time turns, and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. Within this philosophical framework, endings are not always truly conclusive. They are often merely another significant turning of the Great Wheel, a poignant prelude to an entirely new, unforeseen beginning. This potent philosophical underpinning, woven directly into the very fabric of the series, offers a profound measure of solace, a broader, more comforting context for understanding this specific, painful loss. The story's inherent, immutable, cyclical nature strongly suggests that its powerful essence, its captivating magic can, and likely will, re-emerge in different forms at different times, perhaps when the pattern wills it so. Therefore, the bright signal fires in the desolate Aeol waste may have regrettably dimmed on our television screens. The ancient, cryptic prophecies may have fallen abruptly silent in that particular visual medium. The awesome, terrifying clash of the One Power may no longer illuminate our weekly viewing schedules with its breathtaking spectacle, but the dragon's iconic banner in spirit is not truly irrevocably lowered. The story, in its most profound, enduring essence, lives on with undiminished vitality. It lives powerfully in every single reader who lovingly opens the well-worn books anew. It thrives in every imaginative dreamer who bravely revisits that intricate, dangerous, and wondrously captivating world. It persists in every dedicated fan who still defiantly, hopefully whispers the saga's iconic, resonant invocation, "Let the dragon ride again on the winds of time." The wheel, held steadfast in the hearts of its devoted followers, continues its timeless, inexorable turning.